Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Spencer. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is a bit of a cloudy, rainy day here in Toronto, but other than that, pretty magical, pretty magical.
I love
So,
that.
we're going to be talking all about. Okay, let me just start here. I can't believe somebody hadn't already bottled this, but the fact that you took like such a decades long like saying and bottled it. I'm just genuinely shocked nobody else had taken it. Like, what work did you do to find out if anybody else had tried to do this before?
That's a good question. I did trademark search. Of course, that's always the first place to go if you're trying to start a business. Can't tell you how many people I've heard of that have come up with a name and then gone and done some of the work and then realized, oh shit, someone trademarked this already. So that was the first place. There were actually a couple. I think there were two trademarks for gay water that were dead, and then one that was actually live. So kind of a quick backstory on it. I actually didn't have the trademark. I ended up reaching out to the person, or actually the person who had the trademark actually reached out to me. Um, and ended up purchasing it from him. It turns out he was actually a straight guy who was planning on doing a bottled like electrolyte water, called gay water, one word, had nothing to do with the colloquialism, and was going to be selling water. And I think his plan was to give like half of the proceeds to a nonprofit. Um, I don't remember which one. I don't remember if he had decided which one. He ended up abandoning the idea throughout like COVID and was just kind of sitting on the trademark. But yeah, that was the first place that I went early on, to see if you know someone had someone had thought of it, if this was even a feasible idea.
That's wild. And the fact that it was, of course, it was a straight guy who, and then of course he was just like, oh no, that was just the name. Like, why would you pick that name and then just do absolutely nothing with it?
Yeah, listen, like he kudos to him. He was a good person. He ended up basically giving it to me at cost, recognizing that like what I was trying to do was something for the community. It wasn't like, you know, I wasn't I wasn't trying to, sit on it and hold it ransom. So he
Oh,
ended up
that's
being a
good.
nice guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. That makes me happy. So tell me, what was the aha moment where you're like, oh, I need to like can this?
Um, I would say the aha moment was actually I was with a friend. Um, and I had kind of thought of the idea um, before this moment, but I had ordered a vodka soda. I was with a straight friend, and I turned to her and I was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of the term gay water?" And she was like, "I don't know whether it's because my family members are part of the community or I went to NYU and all of my friends are, but like I know exactly what this is." And to me, that was understanding that like it wasn't just like a like you what's the word, just like niche term that the community some members of the community use, and like that there was some element of this has more recognition than I thought. That I think sort of propelled me a little bit to be like, light bulb, maybe I should start socializing this. Maybe I should start gathering research data insights and seeing if like the term is recognized, if it's something that people would understand inherently. And yeah, that was kind of the where the seed was planted, not necessarily the like light bulb.
But that was the moment where you're like, okay, let's start doing a little bit of research on this and to see if this is even something feasible that I can do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I had no beverage experience as well, so part of that research was like really digging into the nuance of the beverage space and understanding, you know, how can beverages have done in the past, how the market was looking, really understanding what the queer community looks like in the beverage space. And so the research was not, you know, just sitting on that name and being like, huh, maybe this is a good idea, but really understanding holistically like what the space looks like and if a product like this for this community could operate in the space. Which spoilers, it was kind of one of those things where no matter how much research I did, because there isn't a product out like this out in market, um, there was really no way of knowing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of looking at sort of macro trends and uh, hopefully not too much like on the opposite side, like cognitive dissonance between like, what's believed and how people actually act. Because, you can read so much research, but people say things that they don't necessarily then action on. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
so
we all
yeah,
know,
even in that,
yeah, we all know the gay community can be very fickle.
yeah,
So
very true.
had you ever brought a product to market like this before? Like, did you have experience in that, or this was your first product to market?
First product to market, unless you consider the lemonade stand that I'm sure many people had when they were younger. That was my first unique product. I will never divulge that lemon to water to sugar ratio.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say, okay,
That
so
was
you,
my first beverage foray.
oh, hilarious. So you have four flavors. You decided to go all in. You created everything. You have four flavors.
Yes.
Did you have any major challenges that you faced when you were originally bringing this product to market? Like, what was the biggest kind of things that you were like, oh shit, I don't know about this, or like that you're just like, oh, I didn't expect this?
It's a good question. I would say that it's less I don't know or didn't expect, but the manufacturing process in the beverage space is crazy. I mean, if there was an issue, I ran into it, which was expected, right? Like first time founder, first time in beverage. I was expecting this to feel. Or I was expecting there to be hurdles and challenges. I think uh, the biggest challenge that I kind of faced was like not being able to control the things you can't control, right? Like it doesn't matter how detail oriented, organized, on top of people you are at the end of the day, like part of this process is out of your hands. And it's in the hands of, the vendors that you work with. So definitely ran into a ton of challenge on that side. Um, I think I'm trying to think of like the biggest kind of I didn't know um, challenge that I ran into. Uh, I would say the one thing that a lot of founders don't talk about, especially like solopreneurs, is is kind of the unsexy of it all. The idea that the work itself, of course, is challenging and demanding, but there's this whole emotional component that I feel like people don't really talk about that I didn't prepare myself as much for, which is like the constant state of anxiety, the imposter syndrome, the sort of sleepless nights. I've historically been like a 8 9 hour sleeper, and now I wake up at like 6:37 with just from my anxiety, and like my head is spinning and working and I'm not even like awake yet. I'm in just this state of like almost uh you know subconscious half sleep half worry. So I think that was like for sure s- sort of an unexpected challenge that I've had to basically go up against every day.
Yeah, that's very fair. I actually recently just had Kason Crane on the podcast, who you know, and we talked about this in our episode, how like mental health was a big factor of it that he hadn't really thought about before. And then you get into this world and you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
um
Okay, I also need to hire a therapist as well as all these other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly for solopreneurs, I would say you just, you don't have a co-founder to balance out some of those some of that anxiety to take on some of the brunt of it, especially early on when if you're not a well-funded startup and you can't immediately hire a team, you're just putting all of that stress and anxiety on yourself. So that's, yeah,
That
definitely.
definitely a big one. And I can only imagine like trolls on the internet add to the stress.
Oh,
So
that's
especially with
nothing.
a brand like Gay Water, how has the trolling been?
Um, it's been interesting for sure. I I prior to this had a little bit of my own thing in the social media space, so I had gotten I had learned very quickly to have thick skin and not worry about what the trolls say because I think maybe you commented this on my post the other day when I had posted about kind of getting some trolling. Um, but it very much echoes true. Like the way that I approach trolling is if people are commenting on the post, that means they're engaging with the post. That means like the algorithm then continues to prioritize that post and show it to people who are like-minded to them potentially, which then perpetuates more trolling. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's an old adage, but like all press is good press, right? Like when we launched, we had probably just as much conservative press that was pretty negative as we did, you know, more mainstream and liberal press that was more positive. Um, but at the end of the day, like, the Benny Johnsons of the world he has like 1 million subscribers on YouTube and made a 9-minute video about gay water. Like, I guarantee you, out of those 1 million followers, like not everyone who is conservative and following him necessarily has the same views on the community as he does. So I'm sure there's conservative people that are part of the community that were following him that may have purchased the product. So in my eyes, I mean, all press is good press, right?
Yeah.
Like the negative perpetuates it even further. And even if like, Lady Gaga, there's 99 people in the room.
You did
there's a
not.
there's a if there's 99 conservatives in the room, there's maybe one that would buy the product. So,
Right.
it's good that it's reaching them as well.
You know what? Sometimes money's money. And sometimes, especially in that world, those communities, they might have all the things they say outwardly, but in the background, they're like, potential for making millions and millions of dollars. Like, I mean, that's not how I run business, but like I can see it and that happens.
Yeah.
You never know who's in the
Um,
room.
yeah, it's less even from like a fiscal perspective and more from just like I'm sure there's a silent minority of folks in that you know political mindset that are part of the community and see the product and feel you know represented and feel that the product speaks to them and end up purchasing the product or quietly following the brand. So I think it's important to be said that like trolling is not necessarily a bad thing as long as the the folks involved in the business themselves aren't being necessarily threatened or put in the line of fire.
Yeah, like no like personal attacks
Doxed.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I can only imagine that like, that kind of stuff does add to the stress and like not having a big team, not having like, people to depend on and rely on. Are there any like mentors that have helped kind of guide you, especially since like solopreneurship, we talked about how that's a bit of a lonely road. You surely have to have had some sort of mentors that have helped you through this and be like, ignore the haters or like go in this direction or, what's that been like?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a couple advisors. One who's more of like a part-time CFO, financial advisor, who's been great. One who's like a beverage rock star. She's very well known in the beverage space, who's been guiding. I would say on like the comms and social side, like not really. I come from a brand marketing background, a social background. So I I had a lot of folks in my network who I do go to for sort of individual feedback or support or ideas. But yeah, not necessarily like on the trolling. Like I said, because I personally had a background of kind of putting myself out on the internet. I definitely developed a thick skin very quickly and sort of figured out some of those like ways to qualify the hate. Like I just said, when you think about it objectively, like the more hate you get, the further your video goes, right? The those types of sort of qualifiers, I think, have helped me just honestly ignore it. None of
Yeah.
it's like none of it's personal, right? Like at the end of the day, I don't know these people. They don't know me. Like why am I what I wouldn't put weight into anyone's opinion when I don't know them on a human level. So
Yeah. And then, but then there's also the good parts where it's like, then you're like secret, like warriors come and like come back at them at the comments. And you're just like, oh, the people
it's
who
my
love
favorite
me.
thing. That is my favorite thing in the world is watching like two people go at it in the comments and just go back and forth. Um, because it's to me it's like it's a validator that I've put something out there that is a conversation starter, right? It is something that is ruffling some feathers, and it's creating discourse. And I think like that's part of the reason of creating a brand called Gay Water, right? It's meant for folks to see it in an aisle and have discourse. And hopefully, the more conversation that's had, the closer to acceptance, to representation, to tolerance that we can get for the community.
Right. It's a conversational piece, especially like even if you just had it on your table and like people came over, they're like, wait, what? What is this? Like, every gay at any party that had never seen it before, if they see one can, will be like, hold the phone. Somebody actually canned this. Like, it's definitely a conversational piece and it's a new brand. And so you started not that long ago. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the successes that you've had. So from like launch till now, what are some of the amazing successes that you've had that you're really proud about?
Yeah. Like so many. It's been such a short period of time and it's very uh exciting that the brand has had so much momentum. Um, I would say some of the successes we were the biggest first launch of any brand that our sort of third party online vendor has worked with. So we use a vendor that helps us to it enables us and helps us to ship our product across the country. So we're able to ship to 47 states. We were their biggest first brand launch, and they represent a good amount of brands. So that was really great. We our launch garnered over 800 million press impressions. Uh, we had a big CNN business article that sort of anchored a lot of our press, and we were even trending on CNN.com for the day that we launched, which was, I mean, I I had a minor freak out, but good freak out. Within like a week or so, we had gotten accepted into Total Wine, which is one of the biggest liquor chains in the country. So that was a huge win. After 2 weeks, I kind of on a whim applied for Walmart's open call program. With 2 weeks worth of revenue and a dream, and they accepted us, and I flew to Bentonville a couple weeks ago and pitched Walmart and Sam's Club. So that was a wild experience. What other crazy wins have we had? Yeah, just like a lot of great momentum. I mean, we were what a little almost actually. What's that? Yesterday was 4 months since our launch. We launched July 20th. I mean, our community has grown to uh, over 130,000 members between social media followers, email lists, folks who, we have a platform that helps us crowdsource like store requests. So those folks as well, which is pretty crazy, just given that. there's so many other notable brands out there, and uh, weird to say that we have like more social followers than a brand that's been around for like 8 years. But it is such a young brand with more of a two-way dialogue with the consumer than I think a lot of other brands that are out there. This isn't the early to mid 2000s or 2010s anymore, where a brand will just treat social media like it's a one-way street, and it's like it's almost like they're sending it's on an email. You're not talking at me, like it's social media, you're talking with me. So it's been really rewarding to see that we've been able to kind of connect with so many folks and be able to kind of have a dialogue with them,
Do
and
you
really
think,
like build. Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, do you think that that has come from your experience in being in social media before you started the brand? So you carried that into the brand with you?
A bit. I think understand like my own knowledge, just like understanding how the platforms work, how audiences are sort of different based on the platform, or based on the different social platforms. Um, that definitely set the groundwork to it. But I think the brand itself being able to have much more of like an unleaded like approach to it, and an untethered rather, like we'll go places that other brands won't. Folks will comment like, you know, really negative things, and we'll just clap back. Like the other day we had someone being like, I'm sure these taste awful, and I was like, unfortunately they don't taste like ass. Those types of things, like because because we're able to, you know, be a little bit more unhinged and more uh more topical, more part of the we have an audience and we have a community, and we can talk like them, we can talk with them. I think it's very different than, some of some of these brands that launch with a traditional marketing agency, that they create a brand identity and they create a tone guide. Like, trust me, I used to work at, one of the biggest brands in the world on the brand team. We, worked with huge branding agencies, and it's always, how do we operationalize? And I think that's where brands go wrong,
Mm.
is when you operationalize, you immediately refer, like, you know, defer back to brands of the older days, where it's like there's a style guide, there's a tone of voice, there's brand identity guidelines, and you kind of lose the fun, playful personality of the brand. Um, so I think that's something that's really worked in our favor, is, using social media to be able to be that frontline mouthpiece for the brand, and be able to speak on social in a way that's not linear or expected, honestly. We don't have like canned responses that we answer people with. Like, everything is individualized, as for as long as we have the resources and are able to, be individualized, right? But it all comes from a person. It's not like a chat GPT
Yeah.
response
Do you
to
think
everyone.
do you think that coming from more of like a very solo entrepreneur bootstrappy vibes has given you the freedom in order to be able to do that? And do you think that like small businesses have more of that capability because they don't have to answer to the big power ups that, be?
Oh, absolutely. Um, Having come from like a few big corporate jobs, I I see, like, I know firsthand how much red tape and how bureaucratic it can be, how many approvals things need, if it needs to go through a legal team who's going to give you, you know, wait a week and then give you feedback. One is that, you know, we can be nimble and move a lot quicker. We don't have time delays in those approvals and feedbacks. Um, but also the idea of uh, just being, I guess just being quicker. Yeah, that's probably the only one is
Yeah.
just being able to be quicker and make decisions faster, because there's less folks involved.
So, okay, looking at all of that and looking back on everything that you've done, is there anything, if you were going to give advice to somebody listening to this who's looking to start something or maybe a physical product or whatever, looking
Yeah.
back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Oh, a million things. But I think at the end of the day, I come from the school of thought that everything is a learning experience, right? Like I don't, I think if I had made, if someone had given me all of the answers that I needed early on, I would have made different mistakes. I think that there's no perfect path to anything. You're always gonna look back on something and wish you changed something. I I personally, the best advice I can give someone, um, starting any product, any business, is don't look back. Like genuinely, of course, you can gather some learnings on how to move forward based on what your past. Um, but I think that the best thing you can do is course correct and continue to move forward and solve, especially as a solopreneur, where you don't have you don't have the time and you don't have the resources to like look back and see how you did something wrong necessarily and dwell on the past. You have to move forward. I would say like, you know, keep moving forward, and trial and error is like your best friend. I think we're entering a time where, I mean, I think TikTok kind of pioneered it. Like everything, unless you're working on like medication or something that truly is, life threat, like can affect people's lives. Um, everything feels or everything, not everything is so serious, right? Like don't scrutinize marketing copy to like make it the most perfect, iteration of something when 90% of the time, like a consumer is just going to breeze by it and they'll look at the picture and not read the copy, or they'll see one big word and move on. I think the more you try to make your business perfect, the longer it's going to take for you to get to it actually being in a place where you're happy.
I fully agree. I think so much of it is the journey and the like revamping, revising, growing, like that growth part of that journey informs so much of what's happening that it's like you have to make those learning mistakes in order to learn and grow from them to make things better and evolve and grow. And you can't do that without getting customer feedback, without going through the journey. It can't be perfect to start off with because then you have nowhere to grow to. So just baking that
100%.
into your business, okay, this is where I'm happy to start here and know that it's going to change and evolve and grow and be okay with that. But a lot of people don't have that mentality.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it's hard to just like relinquish, right? Like you never want to put something out that isn't 100% exactly what you wanted. Um, and I had to learn that really early on, that if I didn't put something out there that was like a 92 or a 93%, I probably wouldn't have a product to market today. Like I would still be working on it. I would still be fine tuning. And at the end of the day, it's like, when you were in grade school and high school and you took a test, like you didn't always get 100%. Like you came to terms with the fact that, oh, like a B plus was good, or an A minus was good, and you moved forward and you tried to do better on the next test. And you know, I think we all want to strive for perfection, but at the end of the day, uh, if you perfection isn't sort perfection isn't like the best possible outcome, because I think once you, like everyone experiences this, once you've completely closed the door on a project, you have like a little bit of a high, and then immediately the next day you're just like at this low and you're like, what do I do now? And I think that's why I've kind of strived to continue climbing and learning and growing. And you have your dips, but then you come back up and you continue to grow, rather than like you create one goal and you hit that goal, and then you have the drop off, and then there's another goal, and then,
Yeah. I much prefer to think about like, yes, there are goals and outcomes, but I don't focus on those goals and outcomes. I know that those are a byproduct of the work and the journey. And so I'm constantly just focusing on like next step, next step, next step, because I know that those things are going to come along with that. And if people spent more time on actually just enjoying the journey and enjoying the work that goes into it, that is your life. Like that's what your life is made up of.
100%.
So
100%.
yeah, you're going to have
You
more
miss out
fun.
on life, truly. I've started like taking like Monday mornings where I take a pause. You know, when I wake up in the morning, because normally it would be start of the week, I would have so much anxiety and, getting ready for the week. And my new sort of routine is that I take, an hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning. And I just write down all of the things that like happened in the last week that I'm grateful for and what I'm looking forward to. And it's really helped ground me, and it's also helped recognize and take gratitude for how far I've come along at each step. Because I think if I didn't do that, I would just, like we were just saying, I would just keep going, and
Oh yeah.
I would just keep moving forward without, experiencing and taking gratitude for the sort of journey.
Yeah, it's the constant seeking of the next thing instead of just sitting in the moment of like what you actually did. I do gratitude journal every night before I go to bed, and I just kind of write down like a couple of things of like
Amazing.
what happened that day. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I totally forgot that this amazing thing happened today, and just remind yourself of that good stuff that happened.
Yeah. I feel like we need more of that. No more, like less social media distraction, more
More Brene
gratitude
Brown.
journaling.
Yeah, more
Yes,
Brene Brown. Awesome.
honestly. Like
So
I don't need to be real. I need like be journaling.
yeah, right.
A reminder once a day to write one sentence down. That would be better than taking a picture.
Exactly. It should be in your calendar to do. Write something down that I'm grateful for today. Um,
Absolutely.
so where can everybody find out more about Gay Water, or where can they get Gay Water on the shelves?
So right now I mentioned a little earlier, we ship to 47 states. So we'll ship directly to folks' homes. That I would say is it's an interesting approach because most people don't buy alcohol online, right? You go to your liquor store. We found it very important to have direct to consumer shipping just for folks who live in parts of the country, because it's only available in the US right now, where they might not have access to queer community. So really important that we've like democratized access to this product so that folks can have it in their home and create queer spaces in their home. So we ship to 47 states. We're available in New York, New Jersey, very soon California. We're in all the Total Wines in New York and New Jersey, as well as a bunch of other like independent retailers, liquor stores, and a couple bars. We're working on building out those sales channels. And then, like I said, soon to be California. We'll be in, I think, 3 Total Wines in LA, one in the San Diego area, and just really focusing on for the next couple of months on those markets and building community in those areas, working on really engaging with customers on the ground before we kind of dominate the world.
Awesome.
World
And
domination's next.
where can people find that? Is there a website that they can go to?
Yes, gaywater.com. We have a looking tab, and that is where all of our retail locations are listed. We have a map there, as well as a request form, which is really important. I think I mentioned earlier, we use a platform called WeStock, which connects us like which allows for consumers to sort of crowdsource where they want to see the product. It's great for us because it allows us to sort of visualize like, okay, here are the markets that we need to be in, here are the specific areas that we need to target. We're able to let customers know when we do stock those stores and have product in their area. So definitely, if there isn't product in your area, if you don't want to pay for shipping, totally get it. But request as many stores as possible, and we'll do our best to get there.
Fantastic. And I'm very excited for eventually when you do make it into the Canadian market. I will be one of the
Yes.
first people in Toronto. And next time I'm down the States, either in California or in New York, I'm definitely going to have to pick up a box. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is fantastic. And I
Oh,
just want to wish you
absolutely.
well on like your journey. I think this is a great product, great marketing, great look, all of it. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be in Canada soon. There might be some news about that coming in the next couple of months. But yeah, absolutely. I'll have to send you some because I can send it to you. Hopefully there's no one in law enforcement listening to this. But yes, we have to get you some to try.
Magical. Awesome. Thanks so much, Spencer.